Chris Philp, let's bring you in and talk about some of the wider issues here. Stephen Phillips quitting, accusing the Conservative government of simply not listening enough to Parliament when it comes to Brexit. And of course, he's somebody who backed leaving the EU. It's quite damaging, isn't it, for the Prime Minister?
Well, the fact that Stephen Phillips himself campaigned to leave the EU and is now complaining when the government are implementing the will of the people just highlights how absurd his position is. What the government is doing is implementing the decision the British people took, which was to leave the European Union. We're going to trigger Article 50, which is how you leave the European Union, by March of next year, just 3 or 4 months' time. So to Suzanne's point a second ago, the government is doing exactly what the British people told it to do. The only way you can leave the European Union is by triggering Article 50. That is what we're doing, and that will be followed very shortly by a repeal of the 1972 Act. So the government is getting on with doing what the British people told it to, and that is why the people up in Sleaford and North Hykeham, I'm sure, will overwhelmingly return a Conservative candidate, because the Conservative Party are now following the British public's instructions and delivering Brexit.
Mr Philp, you say that the government's delivering the instructions of the people in a Parliament, but at the same time, it's not really a great vote of confidence in Theresa May. The fact she seems to have lost 3 Conservative MPs in 2 months.
Well, I'm not sure David Cameron counts. I think we all know why he left Parliament. Obviously, Zac Goldsmith had a very particular and very long-standing commitment to Heathrow, and he said 2 or 3 years ago he would resign and cause a by-election if Heathrow ever went ahead. So there's no way you can pin that on Theresa May. As for Stephen Phillips, who knows exactly what's going on there, but he's just a lone voice. And what I can tell you as a backbench Conservative MP is that we are all behind the Prime Minister. We're going to make Brexit work. We're going to make it work for the people of this country. We're going to control immigration, but most importantly, we're going to make sure we continue as a great trading nation. And we saw just last week Nissan redoubling its commitment to producing cars here in the UK, in Sunderland in particular. So we're already making a success of Brexit.
Suzanne Evans, you clearly oppose MPs having a vote on Article 50. When the judges ruled that there needed to be some parliamentary approval for Article 50 going ahead, you tweeted to say it was a power grab, that it undermines democracy, and that the judges should be sacked. Can you explain something to me, because I'm a bit confused here? If Leave voters campaign to try and reclaim control, to enforce the sovereignty of the UK courts and of the UK Parliament, this is that in action, isn't it?
Why am I actually seeming to undermine it? Well, absolutely not. And I think it's quite interesting that the people who are now saying Parliament must be sovereign are exactly the same people who have been very willing to give away parliamentary sovereignty to the EU for the last 44 years.
That's beside the point, isn't it? I'm asking you why it is that if you campaign on a sovereignty platform, that you aren't happy with the UK court sovereignty. You want to say they should be sacked.
Parliament has already had a vote on this, and it voted 6 to 1 to have a referendum and let the people decide the outcome of the referendum, and then it promised that the government would enact that decision. It is not for activist judges to start overturning the will of the people.
So you're happy with activist judges having sovereignty when they agree with what you say, but when they don't, then they should be sacked?
Actually, I think it's the judges that are actually a little bit equivocal on this, because in the past, when Eurosceptics have tried to, on constitutional grounds, say that the EU treaties that we have signed are against our constitution, the courts have ruled that, in fact, it must be done by royal prerogative. It's an international treaty. Now the boot's on the other foot, and for some reason suddenly, oh no, the international treaties are not subject purely to royal prerogative. Parliament has have a vote. And it's also interesting, of course, that there have been cases in Northern Ireland very similar to this that were thrown out by the courts.
OK, your view's very clear. Chris Philp, I'm just going to ask you about the prospect of an early general election, because you have to say Theresa May must be looking at some of the polls, looking at her majority and looking ahead to some potentially tricky votes on the EU and thinking, goodness me, it must be tempting to call a quick vote.
Well, I mean, it is true the other parties are in chaos. I mean, UKIP only hang on to their leaders for about 18 days, then literally descend into a punch-up. So UKIP are clearly completely lacking in any sort of credibility and are a bit of a joke. Equally, the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn is unelectable. But to be honest, the duty of the government and the duty of the Prime Minister is not to try and take quick advantage of the disarray amongst other parties. It's to govern in the interests of the whole country. We were elected for a 5-year term running up to May 2020, and we should, in the interests of the country as a whole, we should serve out that term in full, make sure we exit the European Union in a way that is sensible, that protects jobs, that maintains our national interest, and I think we should sort of put to one side any consideration about exploiting our opponent's weakness and get on with governing in the national interest. The reason I voted for Theresa May as Prime Minister last July is because she is safe, she is reassuring, she's sensible, she's a safe pair of hands, she will steer this country through difficult waters, and that means in circumstances like these, she will put the national interest ahead of party interest. That's why I voted for her, and that is why she is such a good Prime Minister.
OK, interesting to talk. Chris Philp, Suzanne Evans, thank you.